Hey, welcome to the channel. So just now I received an entire Raspberry Pi kit from Amazon. Now this is kind of got by my client. Of course I purchased the same, but I need to get reimbursement for the same because I was working on some kind of SDN and networking stuff, and also I need to explore some kernel optimization drivers and BSP and stuff. So anyway, the main purpose or intent of this video is not about unboxing or anything. So after I received the same, I got the Pi itself in this box. You can see here it's a Raspberry Pi 3 model B plus, and this official case as well. You can see here. The interesting thing about this case is it is built with a good high quality plastic, and also you get this kind of accessible ports. Okay, so you can pull this plastic tabs and something like this, and then you can access its GPIO pins, and if you want any camera or video output, you want to access the same, you can access this from this top panel. You can remove the same, something like this. Since it is new, it is kind of stiff, okay, and it doesn't have any screws. It has everything like a pull tab, so you need to just pull this way and you get this access. And similarly you can even remove this, and bottom you can access the SD card. So they have provided that micro SD slot port over here. It's kind of stiff, and I felt quite difficult to remove that. So what I did is I took this box cutter and I have little bit removed that excess flash, whatever it is, came with that molding, and then it is able to slide in and out. So the main interesting thing about this purchase is the power supply itself, because I do get many times queries about Pi getting crashed and stuff like that. So one of the main areas you need to debug is the way you power your the Raspberry Pi itself, okay. And other than that, if you connect any peripherals, if they tend to pull more electricity, then you need to be aware of, and you need to be careful also. So say for instance, if I connect this Pi, since I am working on networking stuff, obviously sometimes if I make this Pi into some network router, network switch, or a toffee device or something, then I may connect some additional Ethernet ports like this. So with this, what happens is you get a Raspberry Pi with multiple Ethernet ports. You can make this as a firewall, switch, or router, or any network appliance. So when you do those things, it may pull additional power. So you need to be very careful about those things. So which is why I'm saying you get a very good power supply. And in case if you tend to repurpose your smartphone power supply or something, check the ratings, and also be careful that smartphone power supplies may also deliver extra voltage to do faster recharge and other stuff. So you don't need these capabilities for a dumb device like this, because it just needs a proper DC voltage source. It doesn't need any of that intelligent stuff which you use it as in a standard charger. So I got in this box, I got this thing as well. So this is the official Raspberry Pi power supply, though this is rated at 2.5 amps and 5.1 volts, so which is good, because if in case if you pull more than 2 amps, which you get often with a smartphone, which is just 2 amps and 5 volts or something, the moment you cross the 2 volts, it is going to drop the voltage. But in this case, since it is rated at 2.5 volts, you can use this safely than those type of power supply. And even in case if you use a laptop or something as a 5 volt source, even you need to be careful, because again these are rated at 2.1 amps or 2 amps or something like that range. So this is the one. The interesting thing is it has those 4 interchangeable leads, so it is just one power supply which is going to work in all countries, and also it is going to accept the AC voltage, both US and European standards. Okay, so that's what they just mentioned in the back as well. So I thought, let me do an unbox of this rather than other stuff. So as I said, I got the Pi itself, and other than that I got with the Pi I got this instruction manual and stuff. And other than that, I got this storage. I got this SanDisk and also that adapter. So that micro SD to standard adapter, something like this. So this is the card. Since it came with this SanDisk Ultra, I'm not sure it is preloaded with the noobs or anything. So which is also fine, because we always tend to use the latest version, which we can anyway download. So this is the this is that micro SD card. So this I can slot it in Raspberry Pi. And coming back to this power supply, so this is what it is. So let me just quickly cut the same. Yep. So I think, yep, you can see here it came with all these adapters or interchangeable leads. This one is American one, so it can accept that 110 volts AC and convert it to 5 volts or 5.1 volts and 2.5 amps. Okay, so this is the one, this is another one. This should be fine for India and UK and stuff like that. They have even mentioned which type of plug is what. So this is compatible for European Union regions, so that is also going to be applicable for India as well. Okay, so this is the one. The other one is I believe this is for Australia, something like this. This is an angled flat connector, so they have mentioned as AUS, maybe it stands for Australia. So this is the one. And the power supply itself is connected with this European one. Okay, so this one is UK one, I'm sorry. So this one, the standard big leads. So I generally like these leads, and anyway, since we use this surge protector or these things, anyway we can use this, and I feel this is lot more secure than using anything like this. Although we don't need this grounding pin, but still I feel this one is lot more secure. Okay, something to plug in this type of stuff, or else behind me you can see here somewhere like that. Okay, so you can plug this one and you feel it is more secure. So I generally use these things for my NAS servers or my PC or something, rather than any of these ones or the typical Indian plugs we get over here. So I feel this is lot more secure. Even if the ground pin is enabled, I feel this is a better equipped power connector. Okay, so this way you can push this middle tab, and anyway you can slide it out. It has these two pins, so it is going to make a contact to these leads. So you can change it to this thing. This is the US one, so you can change to this. Again you can change it, you can put this UK one or the Indian one, so it perfectly fits. So this is what. And if I go through the specs over here, they have mentioned it's from a company called Strontronics, and the similar specs, and input is at the range of 100 to 240 volts and 50 to 60 hertz. 50 or 60 hertz, and output is what it has been mentioned in that box. Okay, so that's what it is. It's a switching power supply, but having said, I feel it's quite heavy. I feel really it is quite heavy, and the build quality is great, and it has this Pi logo over here, Raspberry Pi logo over here. So this is a regular micro USB port, so which is why it is going to be compatible with Raspberry Pi. And like I said, this is not going to have any type of intelligence like this smartphone power supply adapters. So you can safely use for a Pi rather than something like that. In case if they accidentally trigger 12 volts or 9 volts or something like that for fast charging, okay, you need to be careful using something like that for a Raspberry Pi. So buy something like this. Don't think about the power supply. Sometimes this can be almost half the price of the Raspberry Pi itself, but don't think about buying don't try to save money on a power supply. Try to get a proper power supply, and in case if you use the Pi for any mission critical applications, I do have clients, they use it for many IoT applications, even in customer premises and mission critical applications. Sometimes of course with some redundancy. So if you have something like that, always choose a very good power supply, and of course you can have some type of battery backup and stuff. Of course you can even power this up with some type of power bank and stuff. Even I have Xiaomi power bank. I have done that in the past with my old Raspberry Pi, but if you use it with regular adapters like this, don't buy those cheap ones. Buy a proper power supply no matter where you live. And if you don't have this in handy, sometimes you can use something like a laptop USB ports, because this laptop has a special USB port. This is the one which is actually connected to my Xiaomi Wi-Fi router. Okay, this port is so special. This is always on USB port. They call it as always on USB port, which means when the laptop is shut down and it is not working, this port is going to be always on. So I have soldered this to a barrel jack, and it has a quite lengthy cable and it connects it over there. So that's where my Xiaomi router is. I don't use the power supply which they provided with the same. Instead I use this laptop as a USB power source, and also as a UPS, because I connect this laptop to the charge, and it is always going to be like it is always going to be charged. So its LED is on, so it is always going to be charged, but at the same time it is always going to power this my Xiaomi router. So it acts like a sort of power backup UPS kind of a thing. So even with a full charge I can run this for more than 20 hours, because it's as you can understand, the laptop has so many batteries, 18650s or something in its battery pack. It is fairly enough to drive something like this Xiaomi this thing. It is fairly going to consume around 0.2 milliamps or something like that. It's just very low power, so this is more than enough. But having said, if you use something like this for Raspberry Pi, and here is where the complication starts. In the Pi itself is fine. We can judge how much it pulls that power and stuff, and we can of course put that USB meters, and we can of course measure that. But the problem comes the moment you plug more and more peripherals. We don't know how much it is going to take that power, and you need to be quite careful before you use any those even the so-called expensive smartphone power adapters. Okay, so although it is micro USB, it may not able to deliver this 2.5 volt amps range, or at least around 2.2 amps or something like that. Let's not talk about the max specs. Let's talk somewhere near to the max specs. Even then it has to deliver that at 5 volts. Okay, so something like that. So these things you will be aware the moment you connect some type of USB power meters or something like that. So I have bunch of them. I have that, as well as I have something like this, which I have discussed in the previous video. I have this kilowatt kind of a meter. I can hook this power supply to this as well, and I can measure its AC characteristics. You can see here it is going to accept even this lead as well. So you can see here it is going to work perfectly fine. So with this I can also measure its power characteristics, but it is going to be quite not so accurate, because we are measuring the AC characteristics, not the DC characteristics. To measure the DC characteristics, better you should have something like a DC power meter. I hope it is in my desk here. Let me just search, grab the same. Yeah, you can see here, this is the one. So to measure the DC characteristics, and this is going to provide you more accurate ratings than something like this, because again we are measuring the input characteristics. Always there is going to be a losses in power and stuff like that, so it's not going to be that accurate. Okay, so in either way you will get some rough picture. The moment you connect any peripherals, then you need to think about those things. And also this is useful if you drive any relays and stuff like that, and you have some amount of power left, and you can use this as a source for that relay as well. You can do that as well as some stepper motors and stuff like that. So I do that kind of a thing with my Arduino, and that really helps to have a proper power supply as a priority, rather than the board itself. Let it be Raspberry Pi or let it be Arduino Okay, choose a proper power supply. The more you use it for mission critical applications, I am not saying, generally I seen people who work in Raspberry Pi are students and some enthusiasts and stuff, but the more you get into the career, you will find it something like this, or else some microcontroller or some kind of, stuff like this. Is more and more used. The most important criteria is the reliability. The reliability starts from the power supply, and then next it is all about the board itself. So if your board is crashing or something, it is not reliable, don't suspect it is the kernel it is doing that or your applications, what you have written. Start debugging from that source. Let it be, power supply or some type of connectors, or let it be those GPIO connectors or some wrong connections or something. So do step by step, but don't ignore this power supply alone. Okay, so see, for instance, this is my Xiaomi power bank. This is 20,000 mAh power bank, and what I can do is I can measure its power characteristics, with this USB power meter. So I can hook to the same, and the moment you hook, it is not going to turn up, so you need to enable. So once you click this button, it is going to show its characteristics. If there is no power is pulled out, it will stay in that idle mode and stuff. So what I can do is I can plug this, and if I plug to Raspberry Pi, please note it doesn't have any micro SD, so I don't want to put any OS and test this. I just want to test the bare power characteristics. Okay, so if I connect this power supply, okay, and we can see how much it pulls. See, you can see here it is turned on its LED, and we can see here it is pulling at the moment. It is at 5.056 volts, okay, at that range, and 0.32 amps. So this is fairly significant than something like Arduino, okay. So that's why I'm saying you prioritize a proper, power supply source, okay, from a branded product, and don't try to use your smartphone power supply adapters for something like this if you want something proper reliability. And also I have seen even in Facebook discussion forums of Raspberry Pi and Arduino, they discuss often that I got a Raspberry Pi and it died very soon and few months and stuff like that. Even in Amazon comments I have read across, the main issue is they may use some wrong power supply or something like that, and they may screw their board. Of course, I'm not ruling out. They must have done some stupid GPIO stuff and must have fried up the internal circuits as well. So anything we cannot rule out. So don't ignore the fact that have a cheap power supply and drive something like Raspberry Pi. Don't ever do that. Okay, so check the ratings always. And you see here, I mean, even without the OS, it is pulling at 3.2 amps. Okay, so let me just try to zoom the camera and show you. Okay, so let me get the focus. Yeah, you can see here. So it is pulling at this range. So let me take this away. You can see. Yes, so you can see there. So this is any generic situation where it doesn't have even OS. So of course, if I connect it to the HDMI port, and if I connect it to the monitor, it is going to report that it is unable to boot and stuff. But I'm saying it's even a simple situation like this. And let's suppose if I plug this USB Ethernet adapter, and we can see if anything changes. Okay. Yeah, still it is at 0.32 amps, so it is hovering around 0.32 and 0.35, something like that range. So it is maybe it is ideal, because if it is turned up, it is going to show this LED status and stuff. I need to check, because this is a USB 3 stuff, and I'm not sure, the Pi is going to be USB 2, so I'm not sure what is going on. Yeah, it is not turning up the LED, so in that case maybe it is not turned up. So if the moment I connect anything else, okay, of that range, I can even connect any micro SD card readers and stuff. So let me just check, and we can see its characteristics. Yeah, I can take some bunch of USB drives, something like this, say for instance a USB drive, and if I plug, and we should able to see its status. So looks like the Pi is not enabling any of these ports because it is not yet booted, so it is not changing, it is just still showing that 0.32 amps. So that is why these things will change as the way you connect all these peripherals. So you populate all these peripherals, so be very careful about the power source itself. So hope this is quite educational, and in case if you have anything to discuss, be in touch via mail or post your queries in YouTube comments. Thanks a lot for joining me. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Bye bye.